Paramount Pictures. Paramount Pictures is a legendary producer and global distributor of filmed entertainment since 1912. Paramount Pictures' library consists of more than 1,000 film titles, with rights to an additional 2,500, featuring films by Hollywood's most respected filmmakers, including Martin Scorsese, J.J. Abrams, and Michael Bay, among others. Paramount Pictures' library consists of more than 1,000 films, including such classics as Star Trek, Godfather, and Indiana Jones franchises, Academy Award winners Braveheart, Forrest Gump, and Titanic, and current favorites such as the Mission Impossible and Transformers franchises. Paramount Pictures distributes its titles on DVD and Blu-ray through Paramount Home Entertainment. We are happy to have them. We fucking love Paramount Pictures.
Warning! This movie podcast actually discusses movies. Be aware that it may discuss any of the following elements: endings, surprise twists, unexpected cameos, and all manner of spoilers. If this doesn't appeal to you, then why listen to a movie podcast? Without further ado, please enjoy our feature presentation, The Shameless Picture Show.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Shameless Picture Show. I am Michael Viers, and today I'm being joined by a very good friend who has done this show a couple times. Today I am being joined by, how do I even begin? He is a podcaster. He is a really talented photographer. He's a cinephile. He does a little bit too much, but no one seems to tell him to slow the fuck down. I've got Jason Hillman of Lemon Hill Studios here hanging out with me. How you doing, Jason?
I'm doing great. It's great to be back on the shame list. Anything associated with shame is kind of my comfort zone, so it feels good. Feels comfy.
Well,
like a warm blanket.
Sometimes I've thought about changing the name of this show, but after 9 years, I don't think I can. I'm just sick of every time I try to type anything to do with my show, stuff about the TV show Shameless comes up, and it's like I've never seen that fucking show. It seems like poverty porn to me, where it's just like, let's glorify having nothing and how these people love each other despite the fact that they're all fuck ups. But I hate that I am always constantly associated with it.
I mean, there are worse things than being associated with William H. Macy.
Yeah, honestly, yes. Like I love, everything that I know about the show seems like I would enjoy it. I hold a personal grudge against it.
Yeah, I could see that. And you should hold on to that.
Yeah.
That's our beefs keep us alive. They don't want to tell you that. The therapists don't want to tell you that.
No, absolutely not. But how have you been, Jason? What have you been up to? Tell us about the Dead Eye Millennial Film Club. Tell us about Lemon Hill Studios. Just tell me a story.
So, in terms of what I've created most recently, it's been, I reconnected with an old friend of mine, Ryan Lowe, and his wife, Mira. I went out to their farm. They got married. They're having a reception next month. And I met him a long time ago when I was just a fledgling little comic. And he had one of my favorite jokes, which was how he spent the last 10 years trying to throw away a trash can, and all it does is make the trash man mad.
That's a good joke.
It's so good. And but I haven't talked to him in a while. Heard he was getting married. They invited me. So I offered my camera to them to kind of capture whatever they had going on in the middle of nowhere. They have a farm, chickens, the goats, the whole thing. And we really just created some magic there. That'll be going up soon. Other than that, I'm in the middle of some projects. I don't like to jinx them by talking too much about them. It gives me the high without the work. But working on some music-related stuff. some film related stuff for the fall. It's just been I've had a really it's been a very dichotomous year. My work is great. My connections are great. I'm blessed, surrounded by miracles. Yet every day I turn on my phone, read one headline, and scream into a pillow for an hour. So it's hard to make art in the midst of the decay of civilization. You asked about my podcast. You know, we took down all of our episodes after November of last year, and I can't do this right now. I'm in the middle of re-releasing all of them again, so we can kind of have. It just threw my entire thing off. So just kind of finding my bearings again as a creator, without kind of putting pressure on myself to have to say something with my art. It's weird to be alive right now, Mike.
Let me tell you.
Mikey.
Let me tell you. I completely understand this. Like, I think me and you talked about that come November, just like how things are shit and it's hard to feel motivated. Like, this podcast is kind of the bastion of hope for me in a way, because this is the only thing that I've consistently done for as long as I have. And even when I don't feel like creating something, doing something, I know I can at least get myself motivated enough to watch a movie and sit down with someone that I like and talk about it. Like, you know, there's been a lot going on. I was working on a script with you that I essentially just put on hold because I couldn't just fucking mentally deal with anything.
Right.
I still have
Talking
to
about the trilogy.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
could not fucking deal with anything. I still have to read the action film you sent me because I really do want to do that. It is hard to motivate yourself, like, after, especially because I work now later than I used to. So, like, I get home and I just want to do nothing. So I am trying to utilize this podcast as kind of a rope of safety where I can pull myself out of the muck because I'm consistently creating. I'm thankful that I haven't just given into the darkness and just done nothing. And I'm hoping that if I just keep holding on to this rope, it will pull me out and I can start refocusing on the things I care about, like reading shit that you send me or writing my own shit or what have you. Like, the fact that I can do this podcast and I'm writing a new article right now simultaneously feels like a good fucking sign for me and my own mental health.
Yeah. Yeah, nailed it. It's incredibly difficult to, like, because it's hard to. I'm a professional stoner. I love it, you know, and I do like a good drink. I like my vices.
Of all people?
I love my vices, but it's the situation has put myself. I have to force myself not to just give up every day. Like, I've been clean for months now because I kind of can't put myself in a position where I'm getting high to escape or forget or not feel as bad. It kind of ruins the point of it. It's difficult to, but somehow affirming to get up and look at it in the face and deal with it unimpeded by chemicals of any kind. Although I will say, to contradict that a little bit, what has happened is that I have these situations as it gets worse and it gets worse and stupid. It gets dumber and dumber. I have felt more and more untethered, and I have found myself looking for more, like, when I smoked, it would be dabs or it would be clean or it would be edibles or something. And I don't drink. And when I would smoke, if I wanted nicotine, I would vape. The more untethered this stuff has made me, the more I've been seeking just, like, give me a shot of whiskey. Give me an actual cigarette. I want to feel burning. I want to feel that sour sting in the back of my throat. I need something to ground me back into reality. All these ersatz kind of variations on the theme of smoking and drinking and getting high aren't working anymore. The world is unclean. I need to feel unclean. Does that make sense?
You're kind of having your Hemingway moment. You you couldn't do any of the new technological vices. You have to go back to the shit your dad smoked or what
Exactly.
have you.
Yeah.
And like for
My
me,
grandfather was oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say for me, it's just like I'm so like I feel like such an old man because I'm just like, let me take my gummy so I can fall asleep tonight.
You got to do what you got to do.
Yep.
That's very funny. Like my grandfather was a jazz musician who smoked like 2 packs of Marb Reds a night and
Oh, my
drank a
throat
shit.
hurts thinking about that.
Yeah, but he was also a monster, and he lived to be 96. But there's like some of that energy keeps like popping into my head. I just want to listen to jazz and smoke cigarettes. Yeah, it's a weird time to be alive.
It definitely is. And none of this really has to do about anything, except for the fact that I've always felt that this podcast is best when I treat it as therapy. And while I am, in fact, in therapy now, I still feel like it's artists being able to commiserate about art and then how the way that art makes us feel and using that as a launching point is why I'm a white guy with a podcast. I guess I'll just leave it.
And we're running out of them. You know what I mean? So it's nice that you're keeping up the fight.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Representation.
I don't know if I would necessarily want to be the representation of white guy podcasts, but I'd like to hope that I at least rise above some of the dreck.
Rise against.
Yeah, against me. Even better.
Ooh. Me against you. Wait,
no, I don't want
what's
to
the name
fight
of
you.
that No, Me Without You. Me Without You. That's the name of the band.
I don't have another band, so I'm just going to say I'm a robot and just use that band instead.
Fantastic. iRobot.
That's going to be the rest of the show. Me and Jason are just going to go off the cuff and see what words we can come up with.
Which is actually a great segue into talking about the movie today, because Shakespeare just made up shit.
Yeah, just making up some words. So actually, that's exactly what I was going to lead us into. So today, I have Jason on this podcast to talk about a movie. Is it safe to say it's one of your favorite movies, Jason?
Yes, it is.
We are talking about William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. So those of you who've been listening to the show for a while know that I take a lot of time to write my Turner Classic Movies-esque intro for every movie that we do. But going back to what me and Jason were talking about before, the world is a vampire and it's really draining me right now. So I didn't have enough time to do one this time. So I am going to try to go off of memory and just try to explain what the fuck this movie's about. So Romeo and Juliet is the story about two warring households. You have the House of the Montague and the House of Capulet. And they don't like each other. Every time they see each other in the streets, they're fighting with each other. Shit's going down. It's a rivalry that reminds me a lot of a non-redneck version of the Hatfields and McCoys. But one night, the Capulets have a big party, and for some reason, the Montagues are invited, and a young Romeo meets a young Juliet, and they fall for each other in the worst way possible. It's young love. It's untethered. They don't know what they're feeling, and it's just making things more difficult. Their love is forbidden, but people are hoping that by them falling in love, that maybe they can bring these two warring households together. Things get wild. You all know what Romeo and Juliet's about, so I don't necessarily need to break down the story detail by detail, because me and Jason will be doing that throughout the episode. But this version of Romeo and Juliet was directed by visionary filmmaker Baz Luhrmann. It is a quote-unquote contemporary but stylized retelling of William Shakespeare's classic story, but is still using the Shakespearean English and iambic pentameter that makes his style so frustrating and also beautiful. It's got a who's who of the 90s cast members from, we'll talk about that in a minute. It has such an insane style that it took me a little bit to kind of get my bearings, because I had no idea what I was going to be expecting from this film. But however, the film did quite well. It made $11.1 million in its opening weekend. It was number one at the box office, if you can fucking believe it. It did very well critically and was even nominated for a bunch of accolades, everything from the Golden Bear at the 47th Annual Berlin International Film Festival. It was also nominated for 7 nominations at the 51st British Academy of Film Awards, and it also was nominated for a single Oscar at the 69th Academy Awards. But Jason, this film is also important for another reason, because you want to know why this movie is important?
Why is that?
Because not only was it nominated for an Oscar and a Golden Lion and all these beautiful awards, but this is also the second movie that we have talked about, Jason, that has been nominated for Best Kiss at the MTV Movie Awards.
Really?
Yes.
What was the other one?
Punch Drunk Love.
Oh, which kiss was nominated for the MTV Kiss the award there? The hallway kiss or the Hawaiian kiss?
I believe it was the Hawaiian kiss.
Excellent.
But I don't know if it specifies. This one has Best Kiss, just Claire Danes and Leonardo DiCaprio. They kiss a lot. This movie was nominated for 6 MTV Movie Awards, and it won.
Back when that meant something.
And it won 2 Blockbuster Entertainment Awards. Back when that meant nothing.
I feel like the 90s were a real peak time for arbitrary awards.
It definitely was.
We had an award show almost every night. You could attach any corporate sponsor to it. Be like, welcome to the Maybelline Blockbuster Sitgo television awards.
Yep.
And people would be like, oh my God, I can't believe you would give this to me for best skin in a soap opera. I want to thank God first and foremost. It's just
Instead, now we just name stadiums after these things. So now we have the Froyo Dome and shit like that. But
the basketball called that.
Yes, which is a fucking genius movie. But
it sure is.
Romeo and Juliet has a star-packed cast. A star-packed cast. That makes no sense. It has a fantastic cast. Everything from Leonardo DiCaprio, Claire Danes, Brian Dennehy, Paul Sorvino in drag, Christina Pickles, Diane Venora, John Leguizamo. It has got Jamie Kennedy, which still throws me off. It's got Harold Perrineau? I'm probably mispronouncing his name. Perrineau. It's got Peter Postlethwaite, which sounds like a Shakespeare name. Paul Rudd. Emmett Walsh. It's got everyone. This movie, directed by Baz Luhrmann from a script written by Craig Pierce and Baz Luhrmann, from 1996. We have Romeo and Juliet.
In fair Verona, where we lay our scene, 2 households, both alike in dignity.
Throw your mistempered weapons to the ground!
From forth the fatal loins of these 2 foes, where civil blood makes civil hands unclean, a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life.
Who is it that you love?
Gentle Romeo, if thou dost love, renounce faithfully.
My heart's dear love is set on the fair daughter of rich Capulet.
Romeo! Thou art a villain! Turn him strong! Turn him strong! Romeo, slow kibbles! Romeo must not live!
My only love sprung from my only hate.
Romeo is banished!
City, they will murder thee.
Let them find me here.
I'm plague! I found your houses! I am fortune!
Leonardo DiCaprio, Claire Danes, in William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet.
Good night. Good night.
Jason, so normally we
Yes.
talk about our histories with a respective film. My history is I saw it 2 days ago. Tell me about your history.
Man, okay. Well, if you were in high school in the 90s, if you were in school in the 90s, English class pretty much consisted of John Steinbeck and Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And you generally only really read a few of his works. And Romeo and Juliet was usually it, or Hamlet. And I had gotten there's a lot of cross-cultural stuff that got me into Shakespeare beyond class, beyond learning about it in school. As a language fan, I was in love with the fact that with the kind of odd rhyme scheme of it. As a burgeoning rap and then hip hop fan, I was a fan of the language use, and it was like, oh wow, you act this stuff out while you're also speaking in this incredibly rhythmic tone. I found a lot of the stories to be very interesting. I was in love with it. At the same time, I was kind of worshiping at the altar of Oliver Stone and Tarantino and his ilk and Tony Scott.
I love the Oliver Stone shout out because I feel the same. Anyways, continue.
He doesn't get a lot of respect anymore because he kind of turned into a weird blowhard conspiracy. Like, he was a conspiracy theorist, but it got stupid and silly and kind of goofy, especially when he as the quality of his films dropped dramatically. But there was no one better at that time than calling out the ills of American imperialism through film than Oliver Stone. Tarantino, language, violence, whether you saw the violence or not, he had a really unique editing style and shooting style. Tony Scott and his brother Ridley were making incredibly violent, aggressive, yet beautiful films. I mean, this is a perfect time to call out True Romance, which is a stupid sub-basement kind of midnight film that is elevated by incredible cinematography and language. So at that time, I was deep into that.
Yeah.
And then when Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet came out, it kind of got dismissed as like, it's an MTV movie. It's a stupid movie made to elevate Leonardo DiCaprio. It's just a teen movie. I found it to be a lot more than that. I thought it was a really exciting retelling of what is a really boring story. I think that Romeo and Juliet is one of his lesser works. It's not very interesting. It's just douchebags comparing dicks the whole time. You're bad. No, you're bad. No, you're worse. And then they have to like kill someone to get any momentum going. It's like if you looked at the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and was like, what could solve this if two idiots just loved each other enough. It's pure bullshit. So when you have someone come along and just kind of make all of the fights visceral, having it show the impact of of those battles play out across the city and how it affects people around them, it becomes a more powerful tale of kind of institutional hubris and how two sets of parents kind of failed their children. It's kind of a totem of generational trauma. It kind of came at exactly the right time for a generation of latchkey kids, children of divorced parents. The boomer dream was dying. There was a lot going on with it, and a lot more going on with it than I would say like the Franco Zeffirelli version from 1968, which if you watch it it's boring. It's just a boring, silly tale told in lush terms. The part that I left out was also at the time there was a lot of Shakespearean adaptations that were happening. Kenneth Branagh was really cranking them out. Zeffirelli had put out in 1989, put out a Mel Gibson Hamlet that was pretty good. Kenneth Branagh did Much Ado About Nothing, and he had a King Henry that was received very well. The same year as Romeo and Juliet, he had this incredibly lush 3.5-hour version, sort of contemporary version of Hamlet. So like Shakespeare stuff was at its peak, and Baz Luhrmann came along, and my personal opinion is that he busted the door wide open, and a lot of people really tried to copy that to ill effect. Not many people got it right. They tried a Hamlet that took place on Wall Street with Ethan Hawke, but they used contemporary language. There was now.
I just real quick. I just want to interject. The idea of doing Shakespeare with contemporary language seems very uninteresting to me.
Well, it depends on what, like, 10 Things I Hate About You
That's fair. I
as
guess.
Taming of the Shrew, and it works out very well because the story is actually kind of interesting. It's basic, though. The exception to that rule, I would say, would be Tim Blake Nelson. Tim Blake Nelson directed a movie called O with Josh Hartnett and Mekhi Phifer. That is a prep school version of Othello. That is stunning.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
it is really good. It is an incredible adaptation of it. That was around the time that there was a version of Othello with Kenneth Branagh, not directed by him, but Kenneth Branagh as Iago and Lawrence Fishburne as Othello. That's really good. But O is a really good one. But he set this. He did something that people still to this day have not been able to do. Oh, another exception to that rule is Scotland, Pennsylvania, which is Macbeth, but it takes place in a fast food restaurant in the 70s. That is excellent.
Okay.
That came out in like 2000.
You know what? You might be convincing me.
But it has to be. There has to be a really unique take on it. The Othello is a unique take on it. And Scotland, Pennsylvania is a unique take on it. But you need directors who can. It's hard to make that stuff interesting. Like Heath Ledger in 10 Things I Hate About You is the reason why 10 Things I Hate About You works. He's the reason why a lot of movies back then work. Ooh, Dark Knight. If you skip ahead a few about a generation, you have like Justin Kurtzweil's Macbeth, which is he uses a lot of battlefield stuff to make it interesting because it is just a lot of people talking in shadows. You have was it Ethan or Joel? Ethan Cohen, who made The Tragedy of Macbeth.
Yeah, I think it was Ethan.
That is an extraordinary film that elevates the material by using a German expressionistic style to
Sorry, it was Joel Cohen.
Joel Cohen. Okay, Ethan made the two fun little crime dramas. Anyways, Joel Cohen's Tragedy of Macbeth with Denzel Washington and Frances McDormand and Catherine Hunter and just a whole slew of other people. Extraordinary film. But when people bring their very specific style to the works, that's when they work to me, because the stories themselves aren't that interesting on the page. They're good if you're performing in them, and they're fun if you're watching them on a stage, perhaps. But you'll see that there's so many different versions of these things because they're not, if you just play them straight, they're not as interesting as history would have you believe, I think. Even though they are held up as kind of these like the pinnacle of language, the pinnacle of storytelling, the pinnacle of playwriting. Yeah, I think that's
So one thing, my first, because we watched this together, Jason. You came over.
We did, yeah.
Amanda made some homemade pizzas, and we had a nice little afternoon. And one thing I have a lot of respect for the work of Shakespeare, in that I think it's fascinating to watch people perform it. Like you said, like I think the performances and the way that they both react and react with and react against the language, I think is fascinating. But the thing, I think I made a comment as we were watching that this film kind of felt to the equivalent of watching a foreign film without subtitles. And it made me realize how much I appreciate cinematic adaptations of Shakespeare. Because like I know the broad strokes of the story of Romeo and Juliet. I feel like everyone does, because it's probably the most retold story of all time. And I know the broad strokes, but what I found so fascinating about this film is due to the way that Baz Luhrmann shot it and the way the film's performed. While I didn't necessarily get every single intricate detail, because I'm not able to effectively follow along with the dialogue because I just don't have a knowledge of the language, and it's hard to translate when you're watching it live. I never felt lost by the story. I was able to follow along with the story that was being told. And part of it, like I said, was the performances. I was able to vibe off of what, say, Leo or Claire Danes or some of the better actors in the film were doing to kind of get an idea of, like, okay, here is the context of what's happening, or be able to put together with the way the film is shot. And it reminded me, so don't want to touch on it too much, but as you know, Jason, I was making a Dark Ages short film once upon a time. And the whole conceit behind that was we wanted the entire film, as you know, to be in Old English. I didn't know much about Old English, so I was thinking it was like Shakespearean talk. And it turns out it's almost like a fucking foreign language. And at one point, it was discussed to not subtitle the film, to just let them, because we had some really incredible actors on that piece, just let the actors go out there and do the lines. And I don't think it was ever going to end up happening, but I had the idea to not translate it and let the audience be lost. There's something almost beautiful about not 100% getting every detail, but being able to put together the emotional weight and the emotional context behind a scene. And that's what I found myself on this really responding to, was that emotional weight, that emotional context.
And it takes a really good performance to convey that without anyone understanding it. You bring up a very good point about what is the why this film works. I think is because they got a lot of really powerful actors who are clearly steeped in this language to assist the other actors and actresses who are very clearly not. But Leonardo DiCaprio is not good in this movie. Not to me. I think that he is doing his best, but his hair and his eyes and his glances and his outfits are doing a lot of heavy lifting. Same with Claire Danes, but they're idiot children.
Yeah.
And so it's not necessary for them to be good. His friends, Benvolio, also terrible, but he's a goof.
Yeah.
But Mercutio, then you have the introduction. This is my introduction to Harold Perrineau. He is extraordinary in this movie.
Yes.
I
couldn't take my eyes off that man. Every scene he was in.
But people like John Leguizamo also are shockingly good at what they're doing. But when you bring up something like the context helps, when you read the play, if you just read it, the biting my thumb thing seems very silly. Like, you get it, but it seems silly. But when he has them biting their thumbs as like it's a middle finger straight in this guy's face, where you're basically telling them to go fuck themselves. Go fuck you piece of shit. What are you doing here? Get out of here. Like, it's a real awful insult, and they imply that.
Yeah.
And that battle that they have at the opening is such a good place setting for that. Leguizamo in that scene is just, he's oozing menace the whole time in a way that isn't even described on page.
And the way that they introduce, because like I have seen the way that some of the Shakespearean stuff was written. It's very bare bones scene description and just a lot of dialogue. So it's a lot of inference. But the way that they built up Leguizamo's character to that eventual reveal, I believed that he was the baddest man on the fucking planet.
Like a gunslinger in an old Western.
Yes.
They didn't show you his face. They just showed you his boots. Was it Prince of Cats? He's called that, but the way that they leaned into that kind of like Latin gunslinger menace by dressing him that way and having him have iconography all over him, even dressing him up like the devil later. It's just, yeah, he's really good at it. But you have like Paul Sorvino, who's clearly steeped in it. He's clearly a theater actor. Brian Dennehy, of all people, crushing it. And my
Brian
personal
Dennehy was
favorite,
so fucking good.
my personal favorite actress of the 90s, who's also in Hamlet, the Ethan Hawke one, Diane Venora. Absolutely just all over the place with everything she says. She's so good.
Well, it's also not
and
the first time that she's done Shakespeare. She has
Right.
not only just that Ethan Hawke Hamlet, but she did Hamlet back in 1982 on the stage. She played Hamlet.
I didn't know that. That's a fun fact. Yeah, she's one of the best. And Diane Venora, I mean, you've heard me say her name before if you listen to my cast. She's a Michael Mann favorite because she just oozes the disappointment of the men in her life. Like her character is literally always being disappointed with the men in her life and the choices she has to make, and the kind of theatrical pretense she has to put on so she doesn't go insane. That is her character, literally all the time, and she's so good at it. Yeah, there's such a great balance in this film of people who are trained in and people who aren't, and I think that Pete Postlethwaite as the priest, great job.
Oh,
great job.
That guy was I don't know, like he was just another actor that he stole any scene that he was in away from whoever the fuck was his scene partner.
And that's the thing is like in every scene, and this is controversial if this finds its way back to teenage girls in the 90s. Leonardo DiCaprio is bad. He's bad. But he has great scene partners every single time.
They bring the best out of him. It took DiCaprio a while to become a good actor. Like I personally think in Titanic you're starting to see it. He knows how to look. He knows how to look at people the right way to bring more out of his performance.
Right.
To make up for what he's lacking. But you're right. Every actor he shares a scene with makes him look better because that's what good actors do.
Mm-hmm. We got to give a shout out before we forget. Early appearance. There was Clueless, and then there was this. Paul Rudd is in this as Paris, and it is fascinating to see him in this early role because he plays a putz with no self-awareness. So he's like. It's so interesting to watch a proto Paul Rudd that he would become because when he's the suitor for Juliet that they want to marry her off to, and he is just such a goof who really thinks he's so smooth, so cool, really being romantic when he's dancing with her, and he's just a fool. And he has no idea of the kind of like violent family he's stepping into. He's just I believe the play, it's been a while, but I believe the play makes it's a marriage of convenience to unite to a business deal, basically. But he's so good. He doesn't have much to do, but what he does, he plays the putts really well. But I think that it's really just well acted. And it would fall apart if not for that. And that is what's wrong with a lot of those other contemporary retellings. Is that the people just aren't into it as much, which is why I think that decision was made with a lot of those contemporary language retellings. They were like, we don't want to deal with this. Please don't make anybody do this. Which is why I'm going to keep shouting it out. The Tragedy of Macbeth is one of the best movies of the last 10 years. The language is utilized in such a powerful manner, and to hear people like Denzel doing it is just so good. So it takes a really special talent to not only utilize that language properly, but to do so in an entertaining film. And above all, this movie is incredibly entertaining.
Yeah.
From scene to scene to scene. It's Baz Luhrmann before he really turned into the Baz Luhrmann that we all know and hate sometimes, because he didn't have the budget to do that.
That being said, this movie feels expensive.
Yes, but it's a very clever use of like small stages, small sets, using a lot of stock footage um, to imply a larger scope than is actually there. Really clever helicopter scenes that are very clearly like on a soundstage somewhere that make it look like this is actually happening on a large scale. A very clever use of the budget.
Yeah, yeah. And like I made comparisons while watching it. Some of that was mostly just stylistically, but then some of it in the way that he made this film feel so expensive. I made comparisons to it feeling like a Robert Rodriguez film because
Yes.
Robert Rodriguez is another filmmaker that makes his films feel so much more expensive than they really are. Now, I don't think that Robert Rodriguez would be able to pull off Romeo and Juliet, but I definitely saw some imagery and moments that felt very much akin to what he would have been doing.
Oh, it's that scrappiness.
Yeah.
It's a real scrappiness to it. I think, one of the reviews, I think it's on the back of the box. It's pure cold calculation. Yes, it absolutely is, which is a weird thing to say.
That's a weird
about,
review.
Yeah, because that's all movies aren't they supposed to be cold calculation, pure calculation. But there is something, the budget went into building a world that is believable, that is thick with references. It's one of my first experiences with a universe, because it was the greater Shakespearean universe. He was referencing other Shakespearean works on billboards. The place where they played pool was the Globe Theater. Even the advertisements, and the news was like this. He created this cinematic universe where all of the plays are part of the same place, and where all of the language is part of the same place. It's a real good use of that budget, because they didn't spend it on elaborate, on like expensive. I'm trying to figure out how to word this. It was spent on props.
Yeah.
It was spent on production design. Almost every single scene, every single frame, every single open space is packed to the gills with references and with things that look modern but are just something hyper stylized and otherworldly about them. It's a brilliant universe that he created.
Yeah, and it's visually interesting. So like if you think about the amount of locations, there's not many. There's the beach, which also has that amazing stage location. There's the church, there's the pool hall, there's the mansion, the fucking trailer park. Not many locations, but like you said, they deck out every single one of these locations with either interesting billboards that are expanding this world, copious excess amounts of candles that feels like it walked straight out of the Lost Boys. But then I also appreciate that he added these touches to the two families. The House of Capulet has a very specific way of dressing. Lots of blacks, lots of leathers. Like I said, they're really the ones who look like they walked out of a Robert Rodriguez film, whereas the House of Montague is more Hawaiian shirts, more beach bummy. They have these two very specific looks, and it reminded me as well of something like The Warriors, where how each gang in that film had their own specific thing, their own specific look, and they committed to it. It didn't. So I appreciate that while it's a modern adaptation, it's a stylized adaptation.
Absolutely.
And that also goes back to what I was saying before. But while I didn't necessarily get every single detail because I didn't, the language is intense, especially if you're not used to Shakespearean English, which is its own fucking thing. I always had a good sense of what was going on and where. I could see, that guy's got a Hawaiian shirt, that guy's wearing leather pants. I know they're opposed with each other. And
even down to the cars.
Yeah. Exactly. So I always kind of had this spatial awareness of where I was and what was going on in the story. even if I didn't get all the details. Like I said, I keep it's like watching a foreign movie without subtitles, or watching a movie silently and with no sound, and just kind of having to put together with the images. There's been, when sound came into cinema, people often said that it set back visual storytelling by a good chunk, because now they had to get creative of how to hide the microphone so they weren't moving the cameras very much, but then they could just say what they were thinking, say what they meant, instead of having to show it visually. Baz Luhrmann is a filmmaker that, for better or for worse, will show us visually what he's trying to convey.
Yes. Almost every, you could watch the and we'll get into favorite scenes in a bit, I guess, but the scene where Tybalt shows up looking for Romeo, and Mercutio is taunting him. You could watch that whole scene without any sound, and you would get exactly what is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that, and I keep thinking of production design. I keep thinking, like they show pictures of houses, and then they kind of build a few rooms inside that house, and never doubt the effectiveness of a good door.
Mm-hmm.
You can do a lot with a door if you make it ornate enough, and that door will convey exactly what the entire the power structure is like in the house. For some reason, I thought of Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat, the original one from the 94 and 95, it's beautiful. But the thing that got me in that movie was when they open that when they make that dragon door and it opens up. I'm like, this is a real movie. This is crazy. This is a real place. The people built this. And there's a scene in the Capulet house with Diane Venora is getting pissed off, and Papa Capulet is mad because Juliet doesn't want to marry Paris. And she leans against this door and just, it's like, never speak to me again. And it's just that whole thing, you get what the power structure is in that entire household.
Yeah.
Just really powerful stuff. The falling in love instead of them just looking at each other from across the room and seeing each other, putting a fish tank.
Oh, that fish tank sequence was so creative.
Yeah. His use of music, the way he has Desiree singing that song while they're falling in love with each other, the chase around that party when they end up in the elevator. The way he used music, that's another thing to point out here, is that one of the greatest soundtracks of that time period. You can get people arguing about that. The Crow is a good soundtrack. Natural Born Killers, great soundtrack. Judgment Night, for the real ones out there. But Romeo and Juliet's soundtrack is a banger. It has so many songs. There's a garbage song in there that's great. There's that, if you only bring
not only
me.
is there a garbage song on the soundtrack, but it was nominated for Best Song from a Movie at the MTV Movie Awards.
Oh, geez, just sweeping those awards. And this is a movie that is, how is Jason insufferable? And I would listen to, there's 2 discs. One has the songs on it, from the movie, but the other one is basically just the movie score that occasionally throws in scenes from the movie. And so it's just the score from point A to all the way to the end, with throwing in dialogue occasionally. And it has one of my favorite scores of that time as well. It's just really good music. It's Baz Luhrmann. I mean, his first movie was about ballroom dancing, so he's always been like a person who's into music. He came from that scene, but his use of it, which would be weaponized against us in Moulin Rouge and later on Elvis, is just extraordinary. I had to look up the soundtrack. I want to look at it again. Number One Crush, Local God, Pretty Piece of Flesh. Pretty Piece of Flesh used so effectively as dialogue and then a song for them to be singing. Genius.
Yeah, it's got the
Fool.
It's got the Butthole Surfers on it. It's got fucking a Radiohead needle drop.
Yep.
It's got a Prince song without actually having to have Prince on the soundtrack, which somehow still fucking worked.
With that kid who was lip syncing real dramatically.
Oh yeah, that kid sold it though.
Yeah. Love Fool was the song by the Cardigans that really made that thing stand out. It's just an excellent use of music. And it all comes together, which makes it of its time, but also somewhat timeless because those songs aren't just used as needle drops of the time. It wasn't just used to sell the music of the era. The music fit. And when I rewatch it, I keep expecting to go back and watch it and be like, that was fun when I was a teenager. But it hits the same, if not harder, the older I get. Although my perspective on it changes a bit. Everything still works as well as it did then. Which isn't, you can't say that a lot of movies back then. Although a lot of movies I loved, you can say that about because I had great taste. But even like The Crow comes off as a little bit silly now to me, as opposed to a profound poetic take. But Romeo and Juliet is still a fantastic experience, no matter how many times I watch it.
No, I appreciate that. Like, so I didn't know much about this movie. I think I pointed out that I had seen one scene from it because this is a movie that used to come on Showtime, HBO, Cinemax, one of those channels occasionally. And my dad used to steal cable, so we had access to all that.
Hell yeah.
And you know, pretty much, and I've talked about this on the show before, when I was young, so I was 6 years old when this came out.
So much younger than before. Sorry.
Probably by the time that it was hitting those channels, I was probably like 8 or 9. I probably saw that it was a rated R movie. Actually, no, it wasn't rated R. It was like PG-13. I just probably assumed that this was something that was above my age that seemed like something I shouldn't be watching, so I probably turned it on, and I saw like the pool scene, and I was so fucking lost that I turned it off.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because like especially when you're a kid and you see like Leonardo DiCaprio speaking what feels like a foreign language, you're like, yeah, I don't know what this is. Just sitting there in his fucking Hawaiian shirt, speaking words that I can't quite comprehend. So like I just never thought to revisit it, and especially because it's a movie that, and please correct me if your perspective on this is different, Jason. I don't feel like anyone talks about anymore. They might talk about it in the larger context of Baz Luhrmann's career, but you don't hear many people being like, y'all remember Romeo and Juliet from the 90s? Like it's just not spoken about. So So at least not from what I hear from the people that I speak to, but like I didn't have any relationship with this film, and I was fucking gripped the entire time.
I think that it's one of those you either die a hero, you live long enough to become the villain. Remember that stupid fucking line? It's actually applicable here because you let someone go long enough, people start looking. Now Baz Luhrmann is known as a filmmaker of extreme excess, and we don't really respect the fact that he was putting out these incredibly experimental, incredibly hard to craft films back then, Romeo and Juliet and Moulin Rouge, which it's easy to hate, but I mean, I don't know. You have to respect the hustle of it. So people kind of, especially with Elvis was so off the wall in its editing and its assembly that a lot of people were turned off by his style that aren't used to it, especially if you don't have any experience with it. So people don't look at it as reverently, with such reverence as they should. If you talk to millennials of a certain age, you will get, and you bring it up, they will be like, yeah, that's pretty cool. But no one talks about it. And here's the thing. Shakespeare just ain't hitting the way it used to. I don't think Shakespeare is as important to the culture anymore as it used to be. There are definitely because before comic book movies, I can't begin to explain to you how many Shakespeare adaptations were coming out in the 90s. Shakespeare was like the thing. I'll shout it out later. The Richard III with Ian McKellen as a language appropriate, a language accurate 40s Nazi sort of movie also came out around then, and that was great. But Shakespeare just isn't as important to the culture now, and so people aren't looking for adaptations of it. You're more likely to hear about 10 Things I Hate About You than you are Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet.
That's true.
I do think it gets dismissed a bit as bit of a in the same way that you tuned in and you saw that one scene and you're like, this is insane and stupid. I think people get lost in that and they think of it as something that it isn't. I think there's a lot of reasons why it doesn't get the love that it so clearly deserves. But I think just a change in taste and standards for what people want. I mean, that's why that Justin Kurtzweil's Macbeth with Michael Fassbender and Marion Cotillard from 2017 barely got seen by anybody, even though it's a really great, truncated version of it. But even the tragedy of Macbeth didn't do gangbusters at the movies in a way that it would have if it was released in '98. But it's also why Cohen had to use a German expressionist, black and white, really experimental film techniques to make it look and seem more interesting than people think it is. Shakespeare just ain't hitting.
Yeah, and then also,
so I think there's a lot of reasons for that. It's not as important to the culture anymore, and people have soured on Baz Luhrmann's style, and it's dismissed as like an MTV movie when it is so far beyond that. I think, to me at least.
Yeah, and I agree with you there. Like, I feel like it is more than a quote unquote MTV movie because, so I feel like it probably gets that reputation because, well, clearly it did very well at the MTV Movie Awards. It was at least nominated, but so was Punch Drunk Love, and that movie is not an MTV movie. But it's also, at the 90s were still a time where you had quote unquote teen heartthrob actors who were in the mainstream. Like, I was sitting here thinking, like, if they were to do this movie now, say Baz Luhrmann hadn't made this in the 90s, and he wanted to make this exact movie now, who would you cast? Who is a big enough young actor that you could cast as Romeo that it could sell tickets? Leonardo DiCaprio was selling tickets. He wasn't like someone on a Disney Channel show or a Nickelodeon show. He was a fucking box office draw who happened to be a heartthrob. I was trying to think, like, who would you even cast in something like this now? And I can't think of a young actor who is on that level now.
Okay. Well, that's because we're just completely disconnected from that, because there are teen heartthrobs now.
I'm not saying there's not, but the point I'm making is that Leo DiCaprio was a teen heartthrob who also was in the mainstream and could sell tickets.
When I think of somebody who would make this movie, I think of Emerald Fennell, I think her name is. She made Saltburn.
Oh, I love her. Yeah.
I think that but did that movie do well because it had Jacob Elordi and Barry Keoghan in it, or did it do well because of the concept of it? Because I think Barry Keoghan would do well, and both of those guys. I think that now, you know who would make that would be Sam Levinson, the guy who made Euphoria.
Okay, yeah.
That would be the Romeo and Juliet we get now. And it would have, well, actually, God, what is her? Zendaya and Tom Holland. No, Zendaya didn't do that. Tom Holland was in a Romeo and Juliet recently on the West End that was supposed to be excellent. But again, it was more experimental and it's not quite the same. I think Tom Holland and Zendaya would make a good. Zendaya would sell tickets.
Yes,
if
but
you had Zendaya and Barry Keoghan or Jacob Elordi, I keep bringing that guy up, but he is so. And I think maybe he's too big. I think maybe he would be Tybalt. Or he would be one of the bad guys or one of the Capulets. But I don't. to answer your question, I don't know who would sell tickets. Austin Butler, perhaps.
But I'll push back a little bit too. This is all going back to the point that I was making, in that, granted, they doesn't stop them from playing younger roles, but they're all like late 20s in their 30s. Leo DiCaprio was 21. Claire Danes was 17. That the point I'm making is, like, who is in that age range who also could fucking sell tickets? Because, like I said, I know there's probably a lot of talented people on like Disney or Nickelodeon, but are they selling? That's ultimately the point that I'm making. It's someone like Leo DiCaprio, who was 21 when he made this movie. Not only was a heartthrob on all the teenage girl magazines, but also was big enough in the mainstream that they could put a fucking movie on his shoulders. Because this movie was #1 in America for a short time, and I don't imagine that was all teenage girls going to see it.
And it certainly wasn't a bunch of people going, you can't wait to see this Romeo and Juliet. That's a thing, too. Like, they went to see, it wasn't Shakespeare. There was a convergence of a lot of elements of that time period.
Yeah.
I don't have an answer for you, number one, because I'm not tuned in like that.
Yeah. And I don't have an answer either. I was just more so curious.
We don't live in that kind of culture anymore. That's the thing. We don't have an answer because we don't have that ecosystem anymore.
Yeah.
My answer would be this convergence of circumstances would not happen now.
Yeah, more than likely, this movie would get dumped onto a streaming service somewhere.
Right. It doesn't matter how exciting the movie is. It's going to get dumped on streaming. They just don't make them like that anymore. We don't have Leonardo DiCaprio's anymore because there is no monoculture. I bring this up every time when we talk about old movies, and if you tune into the Dead-Eyed Millennial Film Club, thumbs up, looks into camera. I bring up the monoculture a lot is because the films that I'm usually talking about existed in an ecosystem where things were released in theaters, mid-budget thrillers got released in theaters, mid-budget biographical films, historical films got released in theaters. And so you didn't have people going over the trailers over and over and over again and speculating about about how the movie's going to turn out and complaining about CGI and complaining about the actor and doing all this stuff before it came out. You saw a trailer, you saw a commercial, you got excited. Sometimes there'd be some sub-marketing for it, and you'd get excited about that. I think of Independence Day that had like a bunch of like Fox specials on where Jeff Goldblum goes to Area 51, stuff like that, and it got you excited about it. We don't have that anymore. Romeo and Juliet, Requiem for a Dream, The Insider, these movies would get dumped on Netflix or Amazon within a week of its release, if it even got released in theaters. So we don't, and I'm not tuned into that culture anymore because it's niched so far down. Like, I have no idea. Like, I wouldn't know because I'm in my 40s, right? I don't know what teenagers are up to, but I know even less than I would have had it been the 90s because of the fact that it's niched down and like teen culture is like on Discord and on Twitch, and they have their own movies and they have their own TV shows and they have their own literary literature that I am completely disconnected from. There's no way for me to answer who would be in that movie because I'd never heard of them. It's going to be someone like Caviar Simplex or something. Somebody named something completely random. We just don't have that kind of culture anymore because teenagers and adults knew the same culture at the time. And we had our own little subculture for sure, but adults knew about it. Now adults, I think, know far less about what their children and what teenagers are up to than they ever did, because it's so easy to just hide what you're doing from the authority figures around you.
No, that's
and I don't think that Romeo and Juliet at that time, I mean, was something that I would watch and then like try to talk about. Like, you would talk about it with your parents, or they wouldn't let you see things and you went and saw it. Now there's no avoiding, there's no like hiding from your parents because you're in a world that they don't even see. in any way, shape, or form. Like Kids, the movie Larry Clark's Kids would be like 20 minutes long because everyone's on their phones. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
just a bunch of people doing whippets in an apartment staring at their phones. Yeah, it's the culture doesn't exist for this kind of thing to happen again, which is why we don't have it.
No, I think
And
that's
I think it's also a
absolutely true.
reason why Baz Luhrmann, people got to crank it up just to get people's attention. I think Elvis is one of those things where like it seems like maybe he's unwieldy and losing his touch, but it's like I got to keep people's attention because people have the attention span of gnats now.
Yeah, and honestly, when I saw Elvis, that was my first thought. It's like, that because that movie starts off intense.
It's so intense.
And at first it kind of like it was jarring, but then I was like, oh no, this is intentional. I was like, this is Baz Luhrmann being like, how do I make a movie about Elvis in 2022 something that people actually give a shit about? Because if they would have just done a sterile biopic, people who grew up listening to Elvis would go see it. But, you put Austin Butler in this chaotic fucking movie with Tom Hanks just doing something. I don't know how that movie did, but I felt like it probably moved the needle more than just a sterile biopic would.
I honestly, who gives a shit about Elvis now? Like, honestly, who gives one single damn about Elvis? Like, that generation is like aging in a nursing home somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice to. I know you like Elvis.
Yeah, I'm a fan of his music, but you're not
no one
wrong.
Cares. Yeah. That movie, in the same way as Romeo and Juliet, gets you to care about a very not that interesting subject through its use of cinematic technique. I love Elvis. I didn't like it when I saw it because it'd been a while since I've like tuned into Baz's frequency. Watching it again, man, it's monstrous. It's a monstrous piece of work. That is not technically a biopic or biopic, whatever we're calling it. It's not really that. It is a fever dream of a career. It's not trying to tell you the story of his life. It's trying to tell you the story of his survival and inevitable decline and decay. And it taught me, I didn't know that man never left the country. I didn't know he got ripped off like that. Ugh. So yeah, I think it's a brilliant film from a brilliant director who, as time goes on, is more and more misunderstood.
Yeah.
He's the only one still doing it like that.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said.
Yeah.
All right, Jason, is there anything, before we start talking about like favorite scenes and thrill-us moments and things like that, is there anything else that you want to touch on in the grand scheme of things when it comes to Romeo and Juliet?
I mean, other than the fact that like it hits the same every time, I think it actually gets better with time. And I think what's interesting is that it remains the same quality to me. It changes, the context changes when I watch it when I'm older. Because when I was young, it was like, ooh, cool, kids rebelling, and my hormones are pumping, and I'm gonna listen to Kissing You while when our relationships are stupid but they feel powerful. But as I get older and I watch it now, I'm like, damn, it's about some sad kids that have no idea what real love looks like, and they're propped up by more tradition than any actual affection. I mean, which is the story it's always been. But it's really conveyed very powerfully here. Mm-hmm. As a child of divorce, and some shitty parenting, it hits pretty hard there. Yeah, it's just the way I look at it changes over time, but and I think that's I guess this is growing up.
No, like I said, I don't have the long relationship that you have with this movie, but I will say you bought me a copy of this movie. You were at, I assume, Half Price Books or something of the ilk, and saw that there was 2 copies of it, and you felt it was a movie that I needed to have, And I can tell you, this is a movie I'm going to return back to because I just think it's endlessly fascinating, and what it does really fucking well. Even the people in this movie who aren't doing their best work are great in it, in the microcosm that is this movie.
Right. I bought you. You got the music edition actually, which is where the chapters are broken up by music.
Interesting. I just assumed we had the same copy.
No. Yeah. How did it happen? I think I called them and asked them to hold a copy for me, and then the copy that they were going to sell, the guy didn't come pick it up, so I ended up getting both of them. Yeah. So you have the same special features, but you also have the music thing, which is cool.
That is cool. Yeah, you never told me the story how that came to be. You actually called me, which you never do, so I assumed someone was dead.
Just my soul.
Yeah, just to tell me that you bought me a copy of Romeo and Juliet. Well, I think you might have asked me first if I had a copy.
Right, because I have to assume, since you have copies of every movie ever made, that you had a copy of this, you just had never watched it.
I don't have every movie ever made.
You got a really impressive collection, and also an impressive collection of still wrapped movies.
Yeah. I like to keep them fresh.
Yeah. So I assumed you had a copy of it, but you did not.
I did not. All right, Jason, before we wrap up here, as is tradition on the show, we talk about something called the Thrill House moment, which could be your lock-in moment, but it could also be your favorite scene, just something that you'd like to highlight from Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, it's the Mercutio dies scene. It's one of the most beautiful scenes of that era. It's one of the most beautiful scenes in my cinema watching history. Tybalt comes to the beach to confront looking for Romeo, and Mercutio absolutely torches him over and over and over again. And I'm pretty sure Tybalt art thou consortest with Romeo? You're gay. And that pisses off Mercutio, and they get into a little fight, and they're about to lay it down with their very cool looking guns. I do want to point out that it's very funny that Boz is listen, we made all the swords guns. We made all the swords guns. So we're gonna do a lot of close-ups to make sure you know the swords are guns. This is a dagger. This is a rapier.
Yeah. I love that. That's an Edgar Wright move right there.
Yeah. I mean, there's something to be said about how this kind of style influenced people like Edgar Wright.
Oh, absolutely.
So, and then I think this is Leonardo DiCaprio's best scene in this movie. He cranks it up, especially the next scene when he kills Tybalt. Spoiler alert. But Mercutio getting stabbed. Really clever scene where they don't show the stabbing, but they cut around it. Again, clever, scrappy.
Oh yeah, and then the way that Mercutio sells that, where, essentially saying, "Oh, it's nothing. Don't worry.
'Tis but a scratch. But a scratch. Look for me tomorrow, and you will find me a grave man." He is so good, but the way that the drums and the score build up, the way the storm starts, the way that he dies, and the wide angle, where they're all standing around his dead body.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, when when Romeo was the reason I have to love thee, why I love you so much, I can't tell you, but for now be satisfied. He's so good there. He it's clear that he got it. It's later in the schedule, and he really nailed the language and the tempo by that time, because the next scene when he kills Tybalt and he's screaming at him. Oh man, that's the Leonardo DiCaprio that we started getting later on. He's very, very good in it. When he's doing smooth talking, oh, I'm so broody, he sucks. But when he's angry, he's really nailing it. But that's the middle of it. That's the inciting incident that leads to the back half of the play, and it's just so good.
Yeah.
From a music standpoint, from a cinematography standpoint, from an acting standpoint, everybody is on fire in that scene and the subsequent scene. but that scene especially.
No, and I liked that scene too because that was a perfect example of what I was talking about earlier in this episode, where I didn't have every single little detail of what they were talking about, but I knew enough that I could put together. So it's like, Tybalt is mad at Romeo and is looking for Romeo. Mercutio is there kind of antagonizing him. When Romeo does show up, he is trying to smooth everything over and trying to create peace amongst the two groups until, Tybalt kills Mercutio. And like I said, this is all stuff that I'm just putting together based on body language, what's happening. But I knew I could tell the story that was being told. I didn't need every single little detail. And you're right. Everyone is fucking incredible in that scene.
Yeah. It's just it's the scene I come back to. It's the scene I listen to on the soundtrack all the time. It's just good stuff. Just real good stuff.
Yeah.
I've been a fan of Harold Perrineau ever since. He was on Lost. He was in a number of 90s movies. The Best Man was a kind of one of those.
Also, 2 Matrix movies and 28 Weeks Later.
Yeah. I don't think he's ever been utilized as well as he was there. He was kind of screwed over on Lost. But, yeah, man, that scene is just powerful and beautiful, and everyone is doing their best. And Harold Perrineau is... that's what I see every time I see him. He's in the show From, which is like haunted town Lost. He's really good in that.
I've seen that show advertised. I just haven't gotten around to watching it yet.
It's great. It's on MGM Plus though, which is stupid. And then they gave away the first couple of seasons so you'd buy in. But yeah, the Mercutio dies scene. 'Tis but a plague on both your houses. I could be effusive about this scene forever, but the way he screams "a plague on both your houses," they have made worms meat of me. Just, it's just scrumptious stuff.
You're absolutely right. So my scene, it's my instinct to choose the same scene because that was such a great moment. And I also, while I love the opening of this film, the way that we are introduced to the Capulets, the way we are introduced to the Montagues, and John Leguizamo's incredible introduction. It starts off with this gang warfare gun sequence. It's got Jamie Kennedy, just Jamie Kennedy everywhere. But I feel like this movie's quiet moments can be just as engaging as their loud over the top. And I want to highlight a scene that we talked about already, but it was probably the aspect of the romance that worked the best for me was their falling in love sequence during the Capulets party. From, obviously everything with the fish tank and just the way that scene is played out and the way that it creates this closeness but also this extreme distance between them.
Right.
I love that. The way that they are hiding from their parents, them eventually making out in the elevator. But then even, I just love the cheekiness of it, where this is a modernized adaptation of Shakespeare, but this is the one scene where most people are dressed in quote-unquote Shakespearean clothing. Like, DiCaprio's wearing his fucking suit of armor, and Paul Sorvino's in a dress, and it's just like people are wearing togas and shit. It's like it's
Perrineau is killing it in that scene too.
Oh yes, he is. Just and I love that no one questions it. No one looks at him in a weird way. They're just like, oh no, this is just what this is what he does, and no one, like, Tybalt hates Mercutio because he just hates him and hates everyone involved with the Montagues, even though Mercutio is not technically part of that group, but whatever. He doesn't hate him because he dresses in drag. He just hates him as a person.
Right.
There's no hate crime. He just hates the person.
Well, yeah, John Leguizamo doesn't hate drag. He was into Wong Fu.
Yeah, right before this.
Yeah. But no, that's a great scene. With Leonardo, with Romeo kind of making fun of the prince that Paul Rudd's character while he's dancing. He doesn't even notice.
Yep.
While him and Juliet are making eyes at each other.
Yep. And then and this is technically the scene right afterwards, but when Romeo sneaks back to the Capulet household and climbs up the trellis, and they have to hide from the security cameras, and you have all these beautiful underwater shots that I just loved all of that.
Yeah. Speaking of which, who gets a bad rap in this movie?
Who's that?
Rosalind. The person that he's apparently been seeing, that everyone's like, you're ruining your life for Rosalind? Where's Rosalind? Where's Rosalind? You're not falling in love with Rosalind? You marrying Rosalind? What's up with Rosalind? Even the priest is like, yo, what's up with Rosalind? He's like, no. I've focused. Who cares about her? I hope she's okay. She's like,
no one ever
completely.
Yeah, no one ever checks on her.
Yeah, because they, Mercutio is yelling at him as he's running, as he's escaping up the Capulet wall about her.
Yeah,
that's very good. That's a great scene. The mix of Desiree singing and the sneaking around. It's great.
Yep. And then I just also want to touch on again. He only has like 2 tiny parts, but Emmett Walsh having to speak Shakespearean English he's surprisingly great at it. in his Emmett Walsh way.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't consent, but his coffers consent or whatever for the poison. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's great. Good stuff.
This was a great movie, Jason, and I appreciate you. I don't want to say convincing me because it didn't take a lot of convincing, but you suggested we talk about it for this episode, and here we are. And I think we had a great time watching it, and we had a great time talking about it.
We did, yeah. I love. I don't think I've ever really gotten to talk about my appreciation for this thing, so it was a really good time. I really appreciate that.
And we're almost at an hour and a half, so you got to talk about it quite a bit.
Hell yeah! I hope if you're listening to this, man, go watch it. Go just show some love for. It's not just a '90s movie. This is a timeless adaptation of a work that transcends its time period, even if it is steeped in the iconography of its time. But it's not. There's not a lot of '90s stuff in it except the songs.
And the cast is very much of its time. But
but they're not. It doesn't reek of the '90s the way something like Clueless does.
No, absolutely not. So, Jason, where can the beautiful people out here find you on social media?
I mean, you can Lemon Hill Studios on Instagram. You can see all of my visual work and occasionally some of this stuff. Dead-Eyed Millennial Film Club, Dead-Eyed Millennial Media, Dead-Eyed Millennial Club. All those you'll find them on YouTube and all the major streaming channels. Releasing Sing Sing, our conversation from last year about Sing Sing, the best movie of last year that A24 dropped the ball on. We'll be releasing that today or tomorrow. It'll be up by the time you hear this. I mean, that's pretty much it. You can, that's the hub for all my stuff is Lemon Hill Studios on Instagram. You can go on Threads if you're curious why I'm not about what my opinions are about the happenings here, just yelling at bots all day long.
I do love watching you troll people on Threads. You're one of the main reasons I still go to Threads.
It's hard. It's interesting to do because I can tell when people are bots now.
Yeah.
When it's like Paul Blart bunch of numbers and I don't comment as much anymore. But now I definitely try to find out who's real people. And I'm not technically trying to troll, although it does feel good to be like, what did somebody say? I would I think my favorite thing to tell people is, oh man, this probably hits like pure cocaine if you're the dumbest asshole in every room you're in. That's kind of my favorite, my tone on Threads is like, shut the fuck up, you you disingenuous twats. Yeah. But you can find me on Threads yelling at people and occasionally sharing my photography, but I'm doing my best. Lemon Hill Studios. Type it in. You'll find me.
All right. And then at this point, everyone listening to this show should know where to find me, but I am pretty much everywhere at my name, Michael Viers, or at Shameless Picture Show. You can find me on TikTok at Shameless Picture Show, where I talk about aspect ratios more than anyone else on that platform. On top of that, you can find me on Letterboxd at Viers102008 if you want to hear my thoughts on movies in general. I'll give you a too long didn't read if you're curious. But essentially my review for Romeo and Juliet was simply, I don't know what you're saying, but I like watching you say it. And if you want more of that shit, you can find me on Letterboxd. And at this point, like I said, thank you for listening. We've been doing this shit for 9 years. And if you haven't, go check out the back catalog, and we'll see you next time. Shame Place, Shameless Picture Show.
The Shameless Picture Show is a proud member of the Cinepunks Podcast Network. The show is recorded in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and is hosted and produced by Michael Viers. The show is created by Michael Viers and Nick Richards. The Shameless Picture Show is edited by Austin Proctor of the Frightmares Podcast. Amanda Viers is the show's graphic designer and a big help behind the scenes. Our theme music was composed by Austin Proctor with narration by Nick Richards. The end credit music you're currently enjoying was generously provided to us by the band 10 Speed. And an extra special thank you to all our Patreon supporters and to our generous sponsors. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, and directly at Cinepunks.com.